Once again, from the studios of UNO Television on the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, consider this, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, the Salvation Army Red Kettles. Joining us to talk more about it are Major Randy Hellstrom, Divisional Secretary for the Salvation Army. Next to him, Susan Eustace, Divisional Director of Public Relations and Communications. Welcome to the two of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kathy.
You know, Major, I would like to just start with the mission of the organization. We're going to put up the formal mission for our viewers, but in your own words, what does the Salvation Army mean to you?
Sure. Well, you know, they can see what our written mission statement is, but in the essence of the Salvation Army is we believe that every human being has intrinsic value, that God loves people, and that we need to help people, and because of that, so we show God's love through what we do in the Salvation Army.
We, including a man named William Booth.
That's right. Yeah.
Kind of an important person.
Yeah, he was. He was a visionary, no doubt. He was ahead of his time, and he was the founder of the Salvation Army. Who, you know, one day he was a Methodist preacher, but as he walked along the streets in East London, he saw people hurting, and his heart went out to them, and he said, "I can't. You know, my faith does not allow me to just do nothing. I have to do something about this." And that's really how it all began.
Mm-hmm. To give people a time frame, this has been around, this organization, for quite some time. So William Booth was around when, Major?
Well, the Salvation Army began in 1865. So we've been around a very long time. And we've been in the United States for about 130 years now, something like that. So we've been around a very long time.
Okay, and you became involved in the organization how?
Wow. I became involved by being born. My parents were Salvation Army officers, just as I am today. And my mother is retired, my father is passed. But we were born into the Salvation Army. I think my first Sunday alive, I was probably in a Salvation Army church. And I've grown up in the Salvation Army all my life, been involved in it. And I've been a Salvation Army officer now for 23 years.
Tell us what it's like to grow up surrounded by not just the mission that we saw and heard about earlier, but what that really stands for, people who are living that mission.
You know, it was very rich because it exposed me to a lot of different parts of culture and society. You know, I remember as a kid going into nursing homes to just greet people, let them, some of the elderly who are often forgotten, you know, or their family is not around or close, and just to go in and say hi, and you know, as a child, and they just love little children, you know, so that aspect, or seeing some of the men who have had addiction problems, and hearing their life stories and how they were pulled out of that and the change that they've made. I mean, it really shapes you as a human being when you are around that all the time. And then the love and the care that you see exemplified by the people who are the Salvation Army.
Most valuable lesson that you've learned by being a part of this for so long?
Oh, you know, I think it's, this may be a little bit different, but I think it's just to be genuine. Genuine in your care. People are people, and every single one of them deserve your love and your care, and to be genuine. Just be who you are to people and love them.
Wow. Very nice. Susan, the Red Kettle. So we've heard a little bit about the history of the organization, but there's a pretty fascinating history with this Red Kettle as well. Take us back, I believe, to the late 1800s.
That's right, the late 1890s, when a Salvation Army Captain Joseph McPhee, who lived in San Francisco, decided to put a large pot on a ferry landing in San Francisco to collect donations for a free Christmas meal for the local poor that lived in the area. And oh boy, did that catch on. And now, as Major Hellstrom knows, you can see them nationwide. You can see them around the world. They're everywhere, and they're certainly iconic and a symbol of giving and a reminder of the 30 million people each year the Salvation Army reaches out to. And here in Omaha, more than 175,000 folks come through our doors. And it's all because of the donations to the Red Kettles. That's what keeps these 24/7 programs going year-round. And these are social service programs that reach people from birth until they're seniors. We've got programs that cover the ages across the board, from homelessness prevention services to children and family services to a program called Wellspring for prostitutes to get out of that cycle. We have disaster services and then some. So when you put money into the Red Kettle, it truly is an investment in the community. And I'm very proud of the fact that 88 cents out of every dollar donated goes directly to program. So that's just 12% administrative cost, and that is hard to beat.
You know, I was reading a little bit about the history, and I guess the first thing that came to mind was, who'd have thought, right? When we all kind of get down on ourselves and think, how can I make a difference? You have this man who wants to do a good thing, and it winds up exploding all over the world. Susan, how did you become involved with the organization?
Well, I was drawn to the Salvation Army by a very, very good friend, and we worked together in other nonprofits in the city. And she said, why don't you come down to the Salvation Army? They don't have a public relations director for Omaha and for our 3-state division. And I said, the Salvation Army, really? I didn't know much about it at all. I went to the phone book and tried to look up a number, and the phone book listing was this long. And I realized suddenly that, and it truly is, one of the largest, oldest social service agencies in Omaha. And I was immediately impressed by those I was interviewing with. Officers like Major Hellstrom certainly attracted me to the Army. These people, they're wonderful. The folks we work with, it's just a privilege to work with them. And to be around them, just to ride the elevator with them, some of the folks that we're serving is certainly a reminder of the purpose of our work.
Let's talk a little bit about your role as someone who promotes, right?
Right.
Other than the Red Kettle, what is the easiest thing to promote about this organization?
Well, you earlier talked about or showed a graphic about the Red Kettle Reason, and that is new this year, actually. It's a national social media movement, and it's simply a request to ask Americans to share their reason for giving, supporting the Army, the Salvation Army. And you can go to your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, and read your reason or show a picture of your reason and take that photo. And then hashtag Red Kettle Reason. It will all aggregate on this giant website where all the reasons for giving to the Salvation Army will be listed. So you're not even giving money, you're just giving your reason. And that's my job. I try to give reasons to donors who want to give to the Salvation Army. And like I said, it's truly an investment in the community, and 100% of every dollar donated does stay right here in Omaha to support some of those programs we talked about.
That's amazing. Who comes up with the slogan and all the great ads that we're seeing, like the one at the top of the program? Is that a national effort, and how much say do you have here in terms of the local involvement?
Yeah, we do have some assets on the national level. We get from an advertising group that is contracted with our national headquarters, but they're all customizable and they're all taggable. But here we do mostly our own radio spots, our own digital billboards, things like that, with local reminders of what we do. Although the Army does many similar things across the country and around the world, each unit is a little bit different in what they do, correct?
Sure.
So it's not like a blanket statement, we all do the same thing. We do it in different ways.
Okay, so I asked you about the easiest thing to promote. What is challenging in your job, Susan? I know anybody who's been part of a nonprofit, of course, we want to yell everything from the rooftops, right, and get people to understand. But what have you found to be the most difficult thing to promote that is great, but it's just hard to figure out how to get it out there?
Probably the breadth of our programs. We do so much, and people usually associate, perhaps you did too, associate us with these wonderful Red Kettles and with our thrift stores. We have many, many family stores that we accept donations of food and, of furniture and clothing and household items, things like that. So that's what they know us for, but they don't realize we're actually a church. And that in itself is, I think, surprising to many. And so it's very difficult to get people to understand all of that. And so in my messaging, we try to hit it all. We have a campaign that talks about reasons, and so we have about 25 of them. And we remind folks about what we do in certain program areas, and those are the reasons you should give, because we want people to be able to eat. We want kids to be able to find presents under the Christmas tree, and there are 6,000 of them counting on us just this year.
Susan, I'm curious, how do you know about these people? So you talk in terms of 6,000, right? So how do you find out about them, and what's the process that you go through to make sure that those people are receiving that gift?
Well, thankfully, and I'll let Major address some of this too, the media has been a good friend to us, plus the other social service agencies we collaborate with. So we get the word out that way, and we have a Christmas assistance sign-up that happens the 1st of November. So we get those folks in and making appointments to be helped by various Christmas assistance programs, like our Adopt a Family program, which we just had, and we've got a few families left, but we do that sort of thing. We provide Turkey Fest, and we can talk about some of the other things that we do.
Well, the thing that struck me is when you asked the hard thing, and she talked about the breadth of the Salvation Army, and it kind of ties in with your question about getting the word out. The one thing that people understand about the Salvation Army is they help people. They don't understand all the details and all the little programs we do, or the big programs that we do, the ways. But if you ask somebody, what do you know about Salvation Army? Well, they help people. And people who need help, they come to the Salvation Army because they know, well, the Salvation Army helps people. And so people come to us.
I think this would be a good time to ask if you would please share a few stories, because I can't even imagine, again, going back to the mission, you have to almost leave there every day with such a feel-good, whether you've given a gift directly yourself, but just the idea of knowing that you were part of being able for someone who may not have had something, right? So maybe just some stories that you can think about that would be worth sharing with folks to get more in depth with what you're doing.
Well, let me just say as well, there's great joy that we get to see changed lives. There's no doubt about that. I think about the men in our ARC, and I think about one in particular who his drug of choice was an alcohol, but it was cocaine, and he was very much involved in that. He came to the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center, and there he began not only to examine himself as far as the choices he was making, but also, his spiritual self. Because, the Salvation Army believes in the holistic approach and the whole person. And he began to examine himself, and he became a Christian. And from there, he started getting involved in the Salvation Army as a church. And now he is actually interning in the Salvation Army, and he hopes to go to the College for Officers Training. So his life totally changed around from when, he was totally, he had been a nurse and lost his job, lost everything. His family had to, let go of him because you can't help him. And but now he's looking at becoming a Salvation Army officer because the Salvation Army made that kind of an impact. But you say, that's a great joy. That's a great success story. So yeah, we do get the opportunities to see that and rejoice. But we also get to see a lot of the tragedies. It's very sad when you have to walk the streets of Pilger, and you see homes and lives devastated. And how will those ever be rebuilt? And you get to be a part of that. But there's a breaking of the heart that happens as well. And when you see lives, she mentioned the Wellspring program of women who are caught in this and being trafficked. And, it breaks your heart. And you want to do everything you can to help everybody. But of course, you can't do everything for everyone.
So Major, how is it then that you cope? Because we can talk about the feel-goods and the success stories, but something brings those people to you. That's quite a load to bear for one person. So how do you find the middle ground? You want to have that come through the doors because you want to make a difference. But how do you find balance in your own life with
Right.
that?
Right. Well, you know, a couple things. First of all, as a Salvation Army officer, this is actually a partner ministry with my wife and myself. And so my wife is Major Kathy Hellstrom, and she's gone through the same training that I have, and she's ordained, and we share our appointments together. So having someone that you can kind of share that with helps. But also I think you need to keep yourself spiritually balanced, and you know, make sure you're taking care of yourself. You got to do self-care. You got to make sure that you yourself, for me, you know, I read the Bible and spend time in prayer. Also physical exercise, you know, those kinds of things to try to keep yourself in good care. And then I think also having lots of discussions and talking with fellow officers or with Susan or other people on our staff, sharing the stories, the griefs, the heartaches, those kinds of, they all help. So you can become overwhelmed if you're not careful.
What was it, just last week we were given a special donation, not that they're not all special, donation in the kettle in the form of a French gold coin. And it was called an angel coin. And it was inserted into an envelope, and scrawled writing on the front of the envelope said, "For the angels of the Salvation Army." And indeed, it's those people and our social service workers that care so deeply for each and every person that comes through our doors. And I was reminded, yes, indeed, they are, every single one of them, angels. I remember walking into the building several times and thinking maybe I had a bad day. And then I ride the elevator with someone who's just, you know, become homeless and found a spot at the Salvation Army, is down on their luck, and you just readjust your attitude immediately, and you think, I'm so grateful for what I have. I'm so grateful.
You bring up such a great point in terms of what do we find in here, right? So monetarily speaking, that's obvious, but I was also reading that there are surprises from time to time, things that you don't expect, and I would imagine it's not all about pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollar bills. Major, what has been the most unique, maybe, item that you have found in a kettle?
Well, there's lots of things that are put in kettles. Some of them are not things you keep, but really, I mean, look, we've had gold coins put them in. They're always exciting to find a gold coin in there. Also, jewelry, diamond rings. We just had not locally here, but there was a diamond ring that was put in one of our Salvation Army kettles in this area, one of the outlying areas, but not in Omaha. So those kinds of things.
Gold teeth. Yeah, false teeth.
No.
True.
Never a dull moment, huh?
It is surprising. We could write a book, huh?
It sounds like you could write a book. Susan, I wanted to go back to something that the Major was talking about earlier, and that is this whole idea of how this organization is so kind of faith, spiritually based, right? It's so cool that you're able to go out and live your mission that way. Do you find that it's also challenging, though, in a day and age where we're nudged a little bit, maybe Merry Christmas not so appropriate to say anymore, you should be saying Happy Holidays. I mean, I would imagine that you run into a little bit of that, or maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that's where I could call the Salvation Army very traditional. I just got a letter from a donor that had some misinformation and thought that we were telling our bell ringers to only say Happy Holidays. And he felt that we carved Christmas right out of that. So I quickly went to the director of our bell ringing program and asked for his document that he gives to every single bell ringer. And in fact, it does say, we encourage you to say Merry Christmas. We encourage you to say Merry Christmas. And they do.
And let me just say as well, we are faith-based, and we do what we do because of our belief in God and His love. But there are many people who are not, they don't believe in God, and but they are not excluded from our services.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't want people to think, and we don't beat people over the head with the Bible or things. We want our actions to speak for itself, and so I want to make sure that people understand. Even though we're faith-based, we do not make that a requirement to be in any of our programs, whether they're housing programs or Wellspring programs, or to receive a food basket or toys at Christmas time. Again, in our belief, every person is valuable. Yeah. And we want every person to feel that they are loved and cared for when they come into the Salvation Army.
Well said. We are all called to serve.
That's
It
right.
doesn't matter who's on. We're all human beings.
Right,
And there's
that's
always
right.
going to be somebody on the other end to help. Thank you. That was very well said. All right, Susan. So I want to get back to the kettle for a minute. I don't think
Okay.
we've talked about the goal this year. What
Oh,
is the goal?
The
with
goal
this?
this year is an aggressive 2.8 million. And right now, we're just barely halfway there. There are only a couple of weeks until the 24th of December in the afternoon that the kettles will be out, and after that they are put away. But we find that many of our donors between Christmas and New Year's have met with their families, have talked about their financial situation, and do often make a decision to do year-end giving in the form of gifts of stock or whatever kind of tax deduction they could take off of a gift. It's a win-win for everyone. And research shows that so many people do give to the Army between Christmas and New Year's. For that tax benefit and also to help us. So I can't think of a better situation. So we're hoping we don't have to extend the campaign, that will make our goal. Truly, Omaha is a very, very generous community, and they've always come through for us before. But we don't take that for granted either.
Absolutely.
So there are many ways to give, and even though the kettles have been put away or will be put away Christmas Eve, you can still give to the Tree of Lights campaign.
I want you to put this 2.8 million in perspective because, again, been around for a while, this little red kettle, and so that number obviously has grown over the
Yes.
years. So, for example, Susan, what was the goal last year?
Last year was actually a little higher. It was 3 million, and we just barely made that goal. This year, according to our needs and what we have, we decided the goal was good where it was at 2.8. So we only ask for what we absolutely need.
Love that. And I was going to ask, so the goal is set how? I would imagine you have to look at the big picture
Right.
perspective.
Exactly.
What types of things do you consider when you're sitting around the table? Because to your point, you only ask for what you need. So that dialogue in terms of determining that magic number, what really goes into that?
Take them to a finance board meeting, Major.
Well, I mean, we talk about history, where things have gone and the patterns and trends that we see throughout the year. Also, we consider the economic state of the country and people's giving, and when people are pressed themselves, we've kind of come through. I think we're on the upside. I'm not an economist in any way, but we've seen a period of time where a lot of our donors have become clients, and so we've seen some of that. And you've got to measure some of that when you set some of these goals.
Okay, very good. Now, we have a few minutes remaining, and I do want to make sure that in addition to the red kettle, there are other things, as you've talked about, that go on at the Salvation Army. And let's go ahead and put up a graphic for our viewers. And Susan, what I'd like you to do is just walk us through each of these ways to become involved with the
Sure.
Salvation Army.
Well, volunteering is especially important to everything that we do. We simply could not do without the volunteers we have. Right now, we've got a lot of bell ringers out there volunteering their time, and we need them desperately through December 24th. You can sign up online, ringomaha.org, or you can call Kay at 402-898-6000. You can adopt a kettle for an hour, for a day, and share it with your family, friends, companies. Contributions. Yes, there are the red kettles, but if, like me, you don't carry much change around, there's no excuse. We've got QR codes on those kettle stands, about 80% of them do. We also have the online red kettle, which is really snazzy. It's got a lot of bells and whistles at onlineredkettle.org. It's a virtual kettle. You can create it for your own self, for your family, for a group, a team. It's very flexible, and as you watch your virtual kettle grow in donations, you know that you're helping people who are desperately in need. Disaster relief. Major just talked about Pilger. That's the most recent disaster we were directly involved with, and we are still there. And I'd like to share with you, I just found out that lighting from Bright Ideas Decorating here in Omaha is powered by the Salvation Army and is brightly shining in a new little park in Pilger, Nebraska, thanks to the donations that came into the Salvation Army Pilger Relief Fund. So we do disaster relief, much like the Red Cross. We partner with them. No one can do it really alone. We're often first on the scene and certainly last to leave. We need volunteers for disaster relief as well. We provide the training and the uniforms. Gift planning, I think we addressed year-end giving, which is a great way to go. When you meet with your family or your financial advisor over the holidays, please consider the Salvation Army. It's a win-win. You get a tax break and we get the donation that puts us closer to that goal of 2.8 million. We have our Material Assistance Office, which is the office that does all the Christmas programs. So, and in the summertime, it does a summer fan program. We have a back-to-school program that's enormous, helps thousands of kids every summer with the right tools for school. We offer utility assistance year-round for heating, cooling. Winter Night Watch is a great program. It operates in the coldest months of the year and started December 1st and it ends the end of February. 5 nights a week, volunteers go out in one of those mobile canteens that show up at some of the disasters and things like that, go out and feed people nutritious meals and also offer winter outerwear, clothes, and that sort of thing. So it's a great program, and contributions to the Kettles help with all of those things.
So if somebody sees something up there that's of interest to them, you mentioned it, but what is the first step that he or she needs to take?
Well, I would call Kay at 898-6000, 402-898-6000, and we can find a good fit.
I can't even imagine how many volunteers just in your division are we talking here? I mean, how many people have to be managed who are giving of their time?
Thousands.
Yeah.
I would say.
I would say.
Yeah, in the
perhaps 100,000.
division, it would be, much more than that, because every community, the Salvation Army is the volunteers. I wear a uniform and Susan works, but really, the volunteers are the backbone. They provide the leg work, they provide the muscle work, and many of them, they just have great hearts, and they have the spirit of the Salvation Army, and they want to give, and they see the Salvation Army as a vehicle for that. So.
Okay, we have less than a minute. We've talked about an awful lot on this program, Major. What haven't we mentioned that's important to know?
Well, I just want to say that Salvation Army is community, and we are Omaha. We're part of Omaha, and we have the great privilege of kind of bringing people together. People who have means, people who are in need, and we're like in the middle, and we get to bring them all together. And in that way, the Salvation Army is kind of this little community in and of itself, but it represents the entirety of Omaha, or any community in which it's in. And it's the love and the care and the compassion of the Salvation Army, I think, that makes a difference, that draws people to us to want to volunteer and be part, and then also helps change lives on the other end.
Okay, thank you. Well, let's try to get closer to that 2.8
Yes.
million and put up some information for our viewers so that if they want more, they can just go to the website here. So it is givesalvationarmy.org. The phone number 402-898-7700. We'll kind of maybe wake up our viewers a little bit here. We'll ring a bell for the Salvation Army. I want to thank the two of you very much for being here and
Thank
for
you so
for
much.
sharing your
Thank you for
stories,
having
your
us.
mission, and all of that. Best wishes with reaching your goal and well beyond that.
Thank you,
okay?
and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry
Christmas
Christmas.
to you both too. Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or email us at considerthis@tvmail.unomaha.edu.